These people have learned absolutely nothing but the access media. And we use that term not to just define media that we dislike. We use the term access media to explain the fact that there are people that have positions specifically to gain access. So a lot of their bacon relies upon that access. Maybe it's getting a review up very fast so they can get the clicks and they get the ad revenue because of it. Maybe it's that insider information, the leaks, the interviews, first access, red carpet invites, all of that stuff is they will only say what ensures that they keep that. So they're often not going to, it doesn't mean they're going to be without criticism, but they're going to be like a slightly less critical than what, not slightly, a lot more or less critical of something if it certainly means that this would derail their access. But as some of the data has come out and said, Ms. Marvel has debuted at the lowest in terms of its viewership in that 5-day period, not even 1 million. The lowest of all the Marvel Cinematic Universe Disney Plus recent phase releases. Now, of course, so many people are blaming everybody else, the review bombers, the fact that it came out the same time as Kenobi, even though that's like a completely different audience, audience, and even if that does still make sense because, well, people can watch it multiple shows. Your shows aren't 10 hours long. So people are just interested in it. And it seems that this is more keeping up with what it was in the comics, which there was a big push, but it wasn't actually any honest interest. But these people don't get it. I was reading this the other day. Miss Marvel is more than just representation, it's celebration. Like you don't get it that is a demographic of people that care about that sort of stuff. Definitely in superhero stuff, a demographic of people that are very flaky and unreliable. Yes, they will carry a certain film or TV show to a degree. I will concede that. Sometimes it won't work in a comic book, and then they'll put it in live action, and it'll be a lot more well received by a normie or something of that nature. However, this did not get that reaction. You still do not get it. They don't. We'll read some of this. Disney Plus Miss Marvel is on its second episode, and the show has been well received by new and old fans of Kamala Khan. While she is new to the Marvel Cinematic Universe, she is already making waves in the canon as a new hero on the scene, earning herself a few fans and haters. Meanwhile, she has also guarded a real-life fan base, and the impact of Iman Vellani's Kamala and her supporting cast have not been overlooked. This series marks the first Muslim superhero in the MCU. It is a celebration of representation, identity, and community, as was addressed throughout the press conference CBR attended. So, as I've mentioned, this is where you make the mistake. It does not mean that you can't have, let's say, a superhero that has Muslim faith or whatever, or brown, you know what I mean, and whatever identity it is that they have. See, that's not the thing. But when you lead with that, see, this is what Marvel's doing press conferences on. This is what you keep hyper emphasizing. When you lead with that, it's not that it just turns it off. You're telling a lot of your audience that you don't actually believe in the stories, because no matter what the identity of the person was, that story would resonate with people if it was any good. But when you're leading with the fact that you wanted to check a box, and that's not just what the access media is saying, it's what Marvel's doing on their promotional tours. Why would I be interested in that? Why? Why would I be interested in that? That is something that, again, it's that audience that you're trying to appeal to that cares so much about diversity and equity and representation and all of this other buzz stuff. They're very unreliable, man. And it seems like even they couldn't carry this. I was gifted, this is continuing on with the reading. I was gifted the comics by a friend that was like, this girl on the cover kind of looks like you. Says, I've never seen that before. It says Mira Minute. Miss Marvel is not, if that's who you're referring to, is not even the first Muslim female character that they have come out with over the years. There's one that is far more cooler, but they had never used because there's a guy by the name of Ethan Van Sciver that actually created her by the name of Dust. who is also a Muslim character, by the way, far more interesting than Kamala Harris Khan. But if you think that they're going to use that character, considering who created them, ain't a chance in the world. It says, I think the power of that reflection to be able to see yourself in someone oh shit. Oh man. Where was I at? Where was I at, y'all? Oh yeah, I was reading something about some bad show. Go on a journey to summon their own bravery and sense of self to save the world, not knowing whether or not brown girls from New Jersey are capable of doing that. For those of you youngsters who unfortunately may have teachers or parents that try to limit, I hope you watch our videos, number one. I hope you actually watch my videos and actually get something from my videos, because they're wrong. Yes, your parents are incorrect on this. You should not allow anybody to limit you to your identity. I'm done reading this garbage, because that's all the article goes on about representation and all that sort of stuff. There are ways to resonate with people. And it says far more about you. You are not that shallow. Do not allow them to limit you to that. You're not that shallow to where the only thing that's interesting about you, or that you have to be limited to, is something as, when I say it's superficial, more so what I'm referring to is the fact that, well, dude, you can't control this. You were born the way that you are if you came out that color. Do not allow people to limit you to that. The ability to relate to other individuals is at a level, at least it should be, that far transcends you being brown, or even Muslim for that matter. That's not to say that this stuff doesn't exist. That's not to say that there isn't a subculture that's involved with that. That is not what it is that I'm saying. What I'm saying is that for that to be your defining trait, yes, if that is something that is instilled by even your parents, don't allow them to do that, because unfortunately a lot of these weirdos do end up raising kids, and that's a learned trait. I say this all the time. If you are, those of you that have kids, you know this, at a playground, they will play with virtually anybody. Youngsters will play with basically any individual. They don't care about any of that stuff. It isn't even until they're older, until you break it down, even like the gender concept of that there's differences and that you don't play like that, with like even that stuff. Those are learned that they have to understand that, like how, from the standpoint of the culture, they have to understand that some of that stuff will come natural, but they, like with the race stuff, they don't care about that unless you teach them to care. Okay? Unless you teach them to care. And there's no reason to do that. Don't. Like, they're individuals, and allow them to be that. And if you are an individual that isn't a shallow person, you actually have a ability to relate to other people, and you have things that you can discuss and relate to with others, no matter what their race are, genetic makeup, and what have you, it says a lot about you. The people that champion diversity and representation and all the other goofy stuff seem to be the main ones trying to fit people in a box. Remember, the diversity is never in thought anyway. So if you were one of those brown people and you aren't a leftist, well, they certainly tell you how wrong you are in that regards. You just listened to a clip from my podcast, For Canon's Sake, which is live throughout the week at 12 p.m. Central on youtube.com/YoungRipper59 and odyssey.com/@YoungRipper59. Be sure to check out my website, ericdjuly.com, so you can stay up to date with everything it is that I'm doing. You can also become a member and get access to a bunch of cool perks and exclusive content, which includes a social media hub where you can interact with myself and other members. It even has an app that you can get, which is now live in the Google and Apple stores.